I pulled out of him and kissed him while he masturbated. He asked me to turn over while he slipped a condom on himself. This was my ass, and I was struggling to imagine someone inside me. He got on top and slowly inserted himself into me. It was the worst pain I think I have ever felt in my life.
Instead of talking about what books kids should be allowed to read, how about doing something about school fucking shootings? Hey, you're the senator from the state where a school shooting happened today. Fuck you. Fuck you, John Kennedy. Senator John Kennedy from Louisiana. Apparently is going to read us a very graphic children's book.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I confess I'm a little confused, and I appreciate
I'd say you spend most days confused.
our discussion that we've been having, but for me it's a little too conceptual, or I don't know, metaphysical or theological or whatever you want to call it. I want to try to understand what you're asking us to do. Let's take two books that have been much discussed.
Metaphysical?
The first one is called All Boys Aren't Blue, and I will quote from it. I put some lube on and got him on his knees. And
Also, okay, this says children's book. I said children's book. It's not. It's a young adult's book. It's in teen libraries. So, context.
I began to slide into him from behind. I pulled out of him and kissed him while he masturbated. He asked me to turn over while he slipped a condom on himself. This was my ass, and I was struggling to imagine someone inside me. He got on top and slowly inserted himself into me. It was the worst pain I think I have ever felt in my life. Eventually, I felt a mix of pleasure with the pain. Close quote.
This is real life.
The second is another much discussed book. I'm sure you're familiar with it. It's called Genderqueer. Okay? Let me read an excerpt from that. Quote, I got a new strap-on harness today. I can't wait to put it on you. It will fit my favorite dildo perfectly. You're going to look so hot. I can't wait to have your cock in my mouth. I'm going to give you the blowjob of your life. Then I want you inside of me. End quote.
Ooh, Senator, I will not do those things with you.
Mr.
You are not my type.
What are you asking us to do? Are you suggesting that only librarians should decide whether the two books that I just referenced should be available to kids?
I do not think it's a matter for the Senate, no.
No.
Okay. Tell me what you're saying.
Well, first of all, there's this...
Don't give me a speech. Tell me what you're asking me to do.
With all due respect, Senator, and the words you spoke are disturbing, especially coming out of your mouth is very disturbing. But I would also tell you...
Agreed.
We're not advocating for kids to read porn, to Senator Booker's point.
What are you advocating for?
We are advocating for parents, random parents, not to have the ability, under the guise of keeping kids safe, to try and challenge the world view of every single manner on these issues.
You're getting conceptual game.
I'm not getting conceptual.
Well,
I'm saying
yes,
that...
you are. Yes, you are. Because I want to know what you're recommending. It sounds to me like what some of you are saying. The library...
For you not to be fascist and ban books.
who gets to see that book?
I'm saying when individual parents are allowed to make a decision of where that line is, and To Kill a Mockingbird, which involves a rape scene, should that book be pulled from our libraries? I think it becomes a slippery
Well,
slope.
I think you ought to think about it a little bit more before you come here.
I've thought about,
if
Senator.
you're going to propose something, you ought to be able, in 30 seconds, to be able to explain what
Senator,
you're asking us to do.
Senator,
Ms. Kelly, what do you understand? Well, let me skip you for a second. Mr. Cameron, tell me what you're proposing.
It's pronounced mix.
Mix? Is that how would you like me to refer to you?
Senator, your definition of sexual is synonymous with LGBTQ identity.
I'm not asking you that. I'm asking you to tell me you read those 2 excerpts.
Genderqueer.
Do you think that, are you asking that only librarians and not parents have any say in whether minors can read those books? Is that?
No. The parents totally have say over it. The parents don't get to have a say in what other people's children read. That's the point here. You don't get to just pull a book from a library because it offends your sensibilities. You're a fascist.
What you're saying?
Genderqueer has never been in my school library, so it's never been banned.
Well, suppose it was. Should it be up just to the librarian, or should parents have a say?
There should be facilitation of collaboration between students,
Should parents have
and
a say?
educators.
They do. It's called a
Should be working with
parent-teacher
students and
conference or
educators to make
parent-teacher
decisions.
association.
Students
All right,
are
and who
these-
decides ultimately? The librarian, or do you take a vote, or who takes the vote?
I would assume it's school board.
book review committees in the community in my school district.
You want a committee to decide?
There are committees.
Okay. Well, I'm asking you, how do we decide whether the 2 books that I just referenced should be available in the library? What would you, if you were running things, what would you do?
All Boys Aren't Blue, the scene you mentioned, is about sexual abuse.
I know what it's about.
It's not
What would
erotic.
you do in terms of making the books available? Would you say anybody can see them?
Yeah, I didn't know that
A
fact.
special session?
So it's about sexual abuse. It's not an erotic passage.
Students who do not read books like All Boys Aren't Blue cannot learn what is
I
appropriate.
understand that.
They cannot learn
I understand, but none
about
of you want to
abuse.
answer my question. You come here and you say censorship is bad, and of
It
course
is.
it's bad. But the obvious response is, okay, you heard the books we're talking about. Okay, we're not talking about Catcher in the Rye. So tell me what you want, who gets to decide. And all I've heard is the librarian.
Hold on, does he believe that Catcher in the Rye should be banned or not? Like, that was one of the most banned books. What's your position on Catcher in the Rye?
And parents have nothing to do with it. And if that's your response, what planet did you
Kill the hippies.
Parents, Senator.
or what country, more appropriately? This is not China.
Parents, Senator, for all due respect, parents absolutely have a say. My parents were immigrants, came to this country. We never checked out books without our parents seeing what books we were reading. They encouraged us to read
Mr.
books.
Secretary, I understand this is good for your politics back home.
It's got nothing to do
but
with my
I'm not-
politics. My
no,
bill is
Of course
passed.
it does.
My
It
bill is
has
passed.
everything to do with your
I'm here-
politics.
I'm here to-
But you came here with a problem, and I'm trying to understand the solution, and you don't have one.
We solved the solution. we solved the solution
other
in
than
Illinois.
to tell us that we don't agree with you, you're on the wrong. We'll be on the wrong side of history.
We solved the problem in Illinois. We fixed it because we.
Well, there
passed
are
laws
others
that
you
make-
could work on.
Well, that's why
I'm
I'm
out
here
of
to help.
time. Thank
I'm
you,
to
Mr.
help-
Chairman.
to-
Hey, Senator Kennedy, there's problems you could work on. Instead of talking about what books kids should be allowed to read, how about doing something about school fucking shootings? Hey, you're the senator from the state where a school shooting happened today. Fuck you. Fuck you, John Kennedy. Go fuck yourself. School shooting happened in his state today. And this motherfucker was out here holding a hearing about banning books. Yeah, there's problems that need to be worked on in this country, Kennedy. Take some of your own goddamn advice. Unfortunately, this is not the only clip I have of this stupid ass hearing from today. Let's Hear what Mike Lee, the senator from Utah, has to say.
I'm going to be showing a video clip in just a second, but at the outset of this, I want to make clear, I think nearly every American could agree that parents have some legitimate interest in what their child reads or is taught or otherwise exposed to about sex. I think it's very, very difficult for anyone to disagree with that. That being the case, I think we need to proceed with this conversation with that backdrop and that understanding. I'm going to play a video clip right now. The video clip is from Deborah.
None of these motherfuckers are ever going to acknowledge that sexual education leads to lower rates of teen pregnancy, STD, all the fucking shit that you should theoretically want to lower.
Caldwell Stone. She's the legal counsel for the American Library Association. Here's what she has to say on some of these topics. These topics that deal not with book banning. There's no one here has banned any book. You can still get these books anywhere you want them. The question isn't whether to ban them. The question is whether they should be included in curriculum or in a school library.
None of these books are included in the curriculum that you like. The genderqueer and the boys aren't blue. They're not in the curriculum. They're just available in the library.
A library or a school curriculum by definition will be finite. There are a finite number of books that you can put in there. The question is which books should be included and which should not. Let's hear what Ms. Deborah Caldwell Stone has to say on this topic.
But ultimately, we found that the thing that needs to happen most, and it needs to happen before these bills are introduced, is sustained messaging that reframes this issue, that takes it away from the idea that these are inappropriate for minors or sexually inappropriate for minors, and promote them as diverse materials and programming that are about inclusion, fairness, and the protection of everybody's right to see themselves and their families reflected in the books in the public library.
Okay, so
nothing wrong with what she said.
Right now is someone saying the quiet part out loud, acknowledging what the goal is. There is a goal here, and the goal is to sexualize children, to provide minors with sexually explicit material, and then hide this content.
No, the goal of Republicans are to demagogue the LGBT community for points with your dumbass followers.
Parents, hide it by changing the messaging, avoiding the heat by saying, no, these are not the droids you're looking for. This is not about sexually explicit content. This is about equality. This is about justice. This is about what's right and wrong. It has nothing to do with sex. Well, of course that's what someone would do if they were grooming your child, if someone were trying to sexualize your child. And make no mistake, that is what's happening. You see, there has been...
Oh, speaking of which, that dumbass Page called me a pedo, too. The one I showed you earlier? He's also a pedo, so don't post pictures of your children. Called me a pedo, because of course he did, because that's what right-wingers do. You're a groomer, you're a pedo. It is blood libel.
Something that has happened in the last few years. During COVID, a lot of kids had online school, and parents were able to observe in the classroom in ways that they haven't been in the past. Observe what was being taught, how it was being taught, and it's awakened something significant among parents throughout America, and that's why you've got groups that are standing up, groups of parents.
You don't have groups of parents. You have these small organizations backed by these right-wing fanatics. It was something like 80-90% of the challenges against books came from 5 people. That was nationwide. Like a significant portion of the challenges to books came from 5 people. And they all have connections to these far-right goddamn lunatics. The same people that bankroll senators like you.
Places across the country, including Utah, like Utah Parents United, the American Accountability Foundation, and Ms. Neely's group, Parents Defending Education. They're providing parents...
Look into the funding of any of those groups.
...information that they desire about how best to protect their kids.
I will guarantee you that, one, they are connected to charter schools or some religious organization. They're trying to attack education. It's a twofold. Man, this is great for Republicans. You attack education, because you don't want people to have critical thinking skills. You attack education because you don't want people to listen to experts. You want to demonize expertise. So we're not going to listen to Dr. Fauci. We're not going to listen to Dr. Osterholm or Dr. Hotez. No. They're eggheads. They don't know what they're talking about. No, we'll listen to this YouTube grifter over here. And then third, they want to funnel public money into these private institutions, these charter schools, these private religious schools. So, like, it's just a win-win-win-win-win for Republicans, and that's why these radical goddamn billionaires are funding this shit.
From inappropriate things that they may be being taught or maybe being given at the school where they spend most of the best hours of most days of the week throughout the school year every year. Now, one of the explicit excerpts read by Mr. Eden just a few minutes ago and presented to this committee is from All Boys Aren't Blue, a book available without restriction in at least one Utah junior high school, attended by children ages 13 to 15, and at least 5 Utah high schools. In 3 Utah high schools, the book was available to children over 16. Now, remember, from what was shared with us from Mr. Eden, this book has some really graphic, sexually explicit stuff. This is pornographic. This is obscene. It's certainly not appropriate for children.
Again, it wasn't pornographic.
No matter what else you think about it, it is something that is sexual in nature. And I really do think very few, if any, American could reasonably disagree with the statement that parents have an interest in what their children are taught when it comes to sex.
Sure.
And so the moment parents take reasonable steps to protect their children, and lawmakers honor those efforts to protect their children from exposure, then all of a sudden we've got a problem. And then the left and Vice President Harris cry book ban, even though all of these books are still available. You can still buy them, all of them, on Amazon. You can still buy them, all of them, all over the place. You can't, by the way, buy Ryan T. Anderson's book, When Harry Became Sally, on Amazon. That's been taken down from Amazon. But the point is this is not a ban. This is about schools deciding what's appropriate for school children. And sexually explicit, obscene, pornographic material isn't appropriate, and many parents are legitimately concerned about that. So I'm concerned about this in a variety of respects, and I'd just like to ask the question, Mr. Eden, is placing common sense age restrictions on pornographic content or removing sexually
placing common sense gun laws
curriculum
and restrictions on guns.
Is that book banning? And does that carry any ramifications for what we would talk about in terms of the First Amendment, in terms of book banning and the First Amendment sense?
Yes.
No, sir. No.
It does
I think
not.
so.
And why is that? Why is that not book banning? Why does that not offend the First Amendment in any way, shape, or form?
It's a question of community curation, and no student is actually blocked from acquiring the book in a broader sense.
So if you're providing content to a child, that if spoken to a child by you, by the school, if that would constitute...
But you are absolutely putting up a barrier to children. Like, instead of being able to fucking check it out from a library, you're forcing them to go on Amazon. They may never discover the book. You know, like, going into a library and looking through the books is how most books are discovered.
In some jurisdictions, in some circumstances, a crime or a tort, you've got a problem. These school districts are acting in response to legitimate parental concerns. They should be removing these. Shame on them if they don't, and shame on those who want to groom children sexually. Thank you.
Fuck you, dude. You want to know who's grooming children sexually? Go to any church. Go to any church. Churches are nothing but organized pedophile rings. Fuck off, dude. Oh my god. And we're having a Senate hearing about this. Absurd.